Seriously? Another box? That's right. But before I go too much further into this, before I even really open it, although, I mean, cat's out of the bag now, might as well just open it. I will probably get flamed and maybe even canceled in the comments for doing what I'm doing in this video and my opinions about why I am doing what I'm doing in this video. Both of those things will probably generate a great deal of controversy. I'll explain my rationale during the video, but that does mean that you'll have to watch the video in order to find out. Most of you can probably guess what I'm about to do with this. But before we even get that far, you can see what we have in here. A Duo mini dock from Apple. Funny enough, even though this was imported from the United States of America, it's still got a Communications Canada sticker on it. There's the model number on that. 24 volts. That's quite the power supply. Which we will definitely come back to, but I do have the proper Duo power supply. There's the model number on that. Yeah, it really does put out 24 volts. I don't know that there's very many things that do. Of course, there is the Duo system unit. I totally just put on top of a trash can. Some people might actually like that. I know that there's a lot of folks out there that loathe the PowerBook Duo. We have an external HDI 20 floppy drive. It is a super drive. I wonder if this would work with the original PowerBook 100. Because, quick sneak peek, if I even remember where I put the thing, which I don't. Oh, it's in this mess somewhere. I do have one. But it needs a lot of help before I can really get on with it. Of course, there's also the user's guide. See in the back there, a whole bunch of different things, including a built-in modem. Because the PowerBook Duo has claimed fame, and this is a PowerBook Duo 230, but the PowerBook Duo 230's claim to fame, or the PowerBook Duo in general, is that this is, I guess it's considered a sub-notebook, but the idea is that there's basically no built-in drives other than the hard drive. Naturally, this predates things like solid-state storage, so you don't have that kind, but there's also nothing in the way of ports. What you have, we'll lower that foot there. There's a serial port, which is compatible with either the modem or the printer. And there would be, as an option, a built-in modem. This one does not have that option. The only other thing it's got is a docking station connector, which I believe would be roughly equivalent to a processor direct slot. But I can't remember. I don't believe it's NuBus. I believe that it would be processor direct. I'm not going to try and close that because I'll probably break it. But there's really no external connectivity on this otherwise. The idea behind this was that you would plug it into a dock, the Duo Mini dock being one example, and that would allow you to plug into all of your peripherals at your desk at work, your monitor, your keyboard, your printer, your SCSI devices, scanners, whatever, and speakers and all of that. And then you could take the laptop on the go with you and have one machine. It was a very nice idea, except in this day and age, these machines are really just kind of more trouble than they're worth. This one is really in surprisingly good condition. I believe that there is a little bit of hinge issue going on with this, because that seems a little loose, and then this here looks a little problematic, but it is fine. The screen is in good shape. I think that those are just, like, finger marks. I don't believe that that is the start of vinegar syndrome. Most of these, when you find them, they have got insane vinegar syndrome on both the front and the back polarizing films on the display. And that's really bad because this is a passive matrix display. You really just can't get all of that stuff for these anymore. Your brightness and contrast. Power switch. And a keyboard, which is another sore point. This one is a little bit iffy, although it's actually doing better now than it was when I first got it. This is not it's not nearly as good of a keyboard as what they had in the PowerBook 100. The trackball is also a little bit smaller, but same basic idea. This does still have the battery, which I hope I can actually get out of this thing. I had it out earlier. It is not leaking, but at some point it will leak. And I'm going to have to take that out and remove the cells, so that way at least I have something that I can put in here so it's not a big gaping hole, because you can't just put this cover back on like you would with a PowerBook 100. You need to have the actual case, because the case is what keeps this in here. I don't know how that works, it's just the way that it works. The problem with these is that if you want to reuse the battery, because you can do that, you can put new cells in the battery. If you want to do that, there's play in the logic board, and you have to get a tool, a 3D printed tool that will allow you to line up the battery with the connection points. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So, as far as machines go, vintage machines, if you're just looking for a vintage Macintosh laptop, this is probably not the option that you want. You probably want to go for like a PowerBook 170 or a 180, or maybe even a little bit higher. I would have normally said the 520 or 540C, but those are starting to fall apart with bad plastics in this day and age, because all of these have bad plastics. But the one thing that this PowerBook Duo 230 does not have is rotting rubber disease. Almost all of these have got rotten rubber, and maybe there's even still some evidence on this PowerBook 100 of what that looks like. This battery door is just kind of getting in the way. But yeah, rotten rubber. It's not good. I think there's some covering the screw holes there too on this one, but yeah, that's what happens with pretty much all of these. And this one is a survivor. I don't know what the storage conditions were like. It's probably barely been used. There's very little in the way of scuffing on it. And it's very small. There is one bit of rubber that has degraded, and that's this right here, which is sticky. You might even be able to see I'm able to put prints in that, so I'm going to have to pull that out. The other one is fine. It's maybe just starting to get a little bit sticky. Yeah, you can kind of see it's got a little bit of memory, so I'll probably pull that one out too, just as a matter of course. It won't look very nice anymore because you can't get those anymore. So, yeah, very good survivor. Now here's the part where I get myself in trouble. The first thing that someone who generally restores these things, or even generally cares, is going to say is, do not plug it in, do not power it on, do not do anything, jump straight to recapping. And that mindset is not without merit. I mean, let's get real here. This machine was produced about 40 years ago. Maybe not quite that much, but you get the picture. It's not exactly new, somewhere between 30 and 40 years, as of the making of this video. The capacitors don't last forever. There's a lot of electrolytic capacitors on this. In particular, these models, 24 volt supply voltage, they have a DC down converter. There's lots of capacitors in there. They will fail and they will leak. It's well documented that they will fail and they will leak. Same thing with capacitors on the other parts of the logic board, audio circuits, things like that. They happen, and I have seen it time and time again. But here's where I get myself in trouble. I am a firm believer in diagnosing actual problems. So, jumping straight to the blanket recap, which used to be something reserved for vintage televisions, but I guess now applies to basically everything, almost never solves any problems. So you dump all that time and all that money into capacitors. I mean, they're not that expensive, but, you know, it's only cheap if your time has no value, I guess. But you dump all that time, in particular, into replacing all those capacitors, and you still have other problems. Some of which could be fatal. Maybe the swim is bad. Maybe the via is bad. Maybe the... What else would be in these? The ICC is bad. I think these have an ICC. The display controller, the display itself. Things that are not nearly as cheap and not nearly as easy to fix are bad, and you have just dumped all that time into something that you can't fix. Now, of course, there's people out there that will say, well, vintage computing is a pay-to-play activity. Again, I'm a firm believer in figuring out actual problems, and you can usually figure some of this stuff out long before you have touched a single solitary capacitor. So yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to plug this thing in and power it on. And that's also keeping in mind the fact that I learned recently that apparently some or all of these Macintosh PowerBook Duo AC adapters have got REFA capacitors in them. What's a REFA capacitor, you might be asking yourself if you're not into this kind of thing. They are, I'm going to get this brutally wrong by calling it a surge suppression capacitor. They are suppression capacitors, but it's surge, noise, things like that. The kind of thing that would allow this to meet the FCC regulations by not putting noise back out on the AC power line. And probably other things besides. There's two different types, X and Y suppression capacitors. It would have both. REFA is a particular brand, and the problem with the REFA ones is the way that they were made, they dry out and they start cracking, and when they crack, they fail violently and start smoking profusely. They are all bad, and they all need to be replaced. Of course, the problem with something like this is ultrasonically welded, or certainly welded in some way. It's not easy to take this thing apart. Could you still do it? Oh yeah, probably. Am I going to? No, I'm not going to do that, at least not yet. I'll wait until it smokes first. I'm sure it won't hurt anything if it does smoke, other than maybe my self-esteem, but I feel a lot more comfortable with doing all of this because this has been powered on already. The seller powered it on when they took pictures of it and posted it on eBay. So it has already seen power in recent times. So again, I don't feel too bad about powering it on now. It's far too late to salvage if there were any problems. And spoiler alert, there aren't any problems. This thing actually works fine. There's no smell of bad capacitors. There is no smoking coming from that power supply. Now watch, it'll do it on video. But of course, that's more fun. It'll make this go viral. But it works just fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. The trackball even works well. So I'm going to go take this over to my working area. I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to power it on, and we're going to see it run in this video. Against my better judgment, certainly, I definitely don't recommend doing this. You should replace the capacitors. That's the way it should be done. But we're not about it should be done this way. We're about it's going to be done this way because this is my video, this is my channel, and it's YouTube. I'm trying to drum up viewership here, you know? Not that it's going to work, and not that I really care anyway. Alright, here it is in all its glory. I have the power adapter plugged into the back of the computer. Yeah, these are a little bit loose, but I'd rather they be loose than tight. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of computers you find now, the PowerBook 100s, and certainly the PowerBook 500s that you find in the 5300s and the 190s and things like that, that are so tight that you are practically guaranteed to break something just trying to look at it. So, I haven't plugged it in yet. This is the power cord, because if it's going to blow up, I want it to do it on video, and also, as soon as I plug this in all likelihood, this machine is going to power itself on, because the clock battery, if it has one, and it might not, it's a question as to whether or not these would have one. They probably do, but it's almost certainly dead, and even if it's not, the system battery is certainly dead. So, here we go. Time for smoke. Yep, there it goes. Power's on immediately. Screen comes on. Maybe a little bit of issue there. It's an IBM hard drive. Being a 230, this is the grayscale display. It is a dual scan, and the reason why you can tell is take a look at the line patterns. They don't stretch all the way around the screen. No smoke from that power adapter yet. Are these a great display? Not really, but they're not bad. Like I said, I've done no work on this. This trackball is almost perfect. Maybe a little sluggish to respond, but you can see it has 12 megabytes total memory, but it's actually only got 4 built into the system itself. The reason why that says 12 is because virtual memory is turned on. Running system 7.1. Someone definitely had some fun with this, and while I'm not really going to go through anybody's personal documentation or anything like that, there really isn't a whole lot of it. Yeah, the display should be recapped. I should also mention that there are capacitors on these screens that go bad and they damage the ribbons and cause problems, but again, this one seems like it's in pretty good condition. And the problem with these is that the display is actually part of this plastic housing. That was why they were able to get it so thin. So, anyway, like I said, there's certainly a lot of stuff on here. Word, a couple games. Someone left a document on there. There's a couple of other documents in the recent documents on Word, but, well, they're long gone. But the reason why I say someone had some fun with this is we go into the control panel, and I believe this thing has a microphone on it. Yes, it certainly does. There's a microphone right there. And I think someone was using it, or someone in a classroom was using it to do some entertaining things. I have no idea where these are actually stored. But there's several extra ones in here, as you can see. We'll turn the speaker up.
You win this time. Hello. I hope you're ready to die, friend.
Oh, I can well remember the days when stuff like that was fun. Anyway, I think we're long past that now. People are too busy scrolling through TikToks or whatever's popular this picosecond. You've probably heard that hard drive clicking and then unclicking several times. What that actually is that's a auto parking mechanism. This would have been a very early auto parking hard drive. That's why it might take a little bit of time for this to respond. But yeah, it's working just fine. No problems here. It's an 80 megabyte hard drive. Roughly, give or take a little bit. In fact, I think that does work out to about 80 megabytes. What is that, like 76.8 or something? Yeah, about 76.8 megabytes. So, yeah, 80 megs, less shipping, gouging, and taxes. But that's pretty much it for that. I don't have a whole lot else to share. It is running, and as you can see, working just fine. I have not recapped it. No one has recapped it to the best of my knowledge. No one's taken the power supply apart and replaced all the refas. No one has done any of that stuff, and it's still working fine. This is the exception rather than the norm, yes, but it does happen. So all the naysayers out there who say that powering something on is a bad idea, you're right, but it's my money, and I'll do whatever I want with it. So we'll conclude with that. Maybe some more audio, because I know that there are a couple of other things in there. I'd like to know where those are stored. Where on the hard drive those happen to be. They're certainly in the system folder somewhere. Or if there's anything else in there. Oh, it's got voice recorder. It does have a macro program running. You might have noticed this in the corner. Automac 3 macro. But yeah, where would those actually be on something like this? Probably not in the system file, right? Oh no, they are. Yeah, there they are. This probably would have been used in a classroom.
I win, you lose. Simple as that. He's got a nuke.
So, where it would have been used, well, I know where it came from. In fact, no, this probably was not used in the classroom, thinking about it. I'm pretty sure that it was owned by the person that sold this. So, probably used by their kid, or used by them when they were a kid. I don't know. Either way, someone had some fun. What are the dates on those files, anyway? Are there any dates? There are no dates. You know, I guess the world will never know because there's no dates. Do these have a clock? These have to have a clock on them, don't they? I noticed that there's no clock up here. Maybe these PowerBook Duos don't actually have a clock. I thought they did. Certainly the later ones do. No, there is a clock. Well, there's an alarm clock. Yeah, there's a date and time control panel in here. So, yeah, it's definitely got a clock. Maybe the clock doesn't show up in earlier versions of the macOS. I can't say I've ever actually really noticed. But, The flies in here are ridiculous because there was crap in the compost bin that people left out here, so now there's flies all over the place.
I'm at your command. Preparing weapon.
Like I said, times were simpler back when this thing was new. Alright, enough screwing around. I'm going to go ahead and shut the video off now and shut this thing down. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them below.